We might be able to get in there with this guy. Possibly. Definitely maybe. And negative. Give me a second. All right, so we got a Toyota Highlander in the shop today, 2013. My customer just bought this from the auction. Now, I know a couple videos ago, we had a customer that bought a Toyota from the auction, and this is a gamble. It's always a gamble, and we can talk about that at another time, but, you know, generally speaking, don't buy a car from the auction and just expect everything to be great and expect that you're gonna get this awesome daily driver. Now, this Toyota, I love it when Toyotas come in the shop because that's kind of my bread and butter. That's what I started at the Toyota dealership. So I love it when they come in. The other reason that I like it is because Toyotas don't really break. I mean, yes, it's a machine, sometimes they do break, but generally speaking, 90% of the time when Toyotas come into the shop, it's for some sort of oil leak or general maintenance, brakes, spark plugs, that kind of thing, and that's what this one's in here for. We just wrapped up doing the pinion seal. I did try to get some footage with the new head cam, hat cam that I rigged together, and I don't know how that's going to turn out yet, so maybe we'll throw some of it in, maybe we won't. Pinion seals replaced, we did fluid in that rear diff, obviously, transmission fluid exchange, and we serviced the front differential as well. So now what we got to do, lower this thing down. We're going to show you how to do spark plugs on one of these 3.5 V6s. First we got to go up a little bit. Get it off the locks. Numero uno. Second lock on the max jacks, disengaged. Now we can lower it. All right, nice comfortable working height. Let's disconnect this battery real fast. Come off of there. There we go. Tuck that out of the way. Then we got to get this cover out of here. Woo. Nice gravy job here. I know this can look a little intimidating. I've done probably thousands of these. First thing we got to do is remove this wiper cowl so we can get that intake off. All right, so we're getting somewhere. We got that plastic cowl off, and then one thing I did kind of off camera was take this wiper harness off. So it goes in a few little spots up in here and just clips to this metal part of the cowl, which we also have to remove, and plugs into your wiper motor right over here. Some of these have a harness that go to the windshield glass too. That's going to be up with that wiper harness kind of right in here. So get that pulled off into the side. These are just 10 mil bolts. Don't be scared to pull this wiper motor out. As long as you take it out gently, you're not going to mess up any of the linkage or anything. There's a couple 10 mil bolts here, one in the middle, and then there's one right there. After we do that, it's just 10 mil bolts holding this whole metal tray in here, and then on each side over there and over on this side here, you got a 14 mil bolt that's going to be holding your strut in place. You got to take this one off, and then it's just a slew of 10. So let's get the wiper motor out of here and this cowl tray out of the way. And these 10 mil bolts have a big washer, so you're not going to confuse them with any of the other ones, because they got these little rubber isolators so this thing don't vibrate. One here, and I'm going to have to move. One right there. Now sometimes this thing with those rubber isolators can be a little bit stuck, so be careful not to smash into your windshield, because you will break it. Ask me how I know. Take that out like that. I like to take the wiper motor bolts and put them with the wiper motor after I set it aside so I don't misplace them. Now all we got to do is take this tray out. Make sure the harness is out of the way. Now I like to take all these fasteners, just a mess of 10 millimeters, and then those 14s, which are right here. There'd be 4 of them. I lied, I thought there was one. Some vehicles it's 1 per side, but get all of these. Don't lose these. I take them and I just set them right in that cowl. So now we got the wiper motor out, the plastic part of the cowl, the metal part, and of course that beauty cover. All right, there you can see we have that cowl off, which gives us really good access to this intake right here. So we're only taking the upper part of the intake off. You don't got to worry about the bottom. You can see these Allen bolts here, here, back in here. That's all you have to take out is these guys. It's going to get this manifold off. Now you are going to take some hoses off, and you're going to have to disconnect the throttle body, hang that out of the way, and then there's a few sensors and stuff on here. One thing that I'm not going to even attempt to show you is on the back side right here and about right there. There's these little metal brackets held on with, I believe they're 12 millimeters. They're a pain in the butt, and a lot of times at the dealership we didn't even put them back on. That's the sad truth. I'm not going to lie to you, because it's relatively solid. It's not going to go anywhere. But those 2 brackets, they're about that big. They can be a pain in the butt to get off. But there's a bolt on the back of the intake in each spot, and then on the side of the cylinder head. Little metal brackets have to come off. Then we can get this thing out of the way. Obviously the front 3 cylinders would be really easy to get to. We got a coil here, a coil here, and a coil here. I leave these for the end because it is the easy part. I like to do this side first. All right, so I like to get this throttle body intake assembly part out of the way first. So get your hoses out of the way. You might have to disconnect this one. Sometimes you don't have to. Pull this off of here. Take some wiggling. It's loose. Sometimes you got to shove a screwdriver in there. I'm at a really weird angle because I'm trying not to affect the camera angle here, but we do have to get that off, so I might end up moving you. But get these hoses off. 1, 2. This guy, kind of just tuck it out of the way. There's one back here for your brake booster. Pull that guy off gently. There's a clip on there, and it's plastic, so don't break the little plastic nipple off. Pull that out of that bracket. Tuck that guy back up out of the way. So we got 3 hoses disconnected so far. And then there's a harness connector over here. Push down really hard, they can be stubborn. Get that off of there. It's been a while since I've done one on this year Highlander. We may have to move this harness. I'm not exactly sure, I can't remember. But we'll deal with that once we get to that point. Hoses, get all this easy stuff out of the way first. There's a little tiny hose here. Take pictures if you need to. I've done a million of these, so usually I don't have any trouble with that, but nothing's worse than getting, back together to this point and not remembering where your vacuum lines go, so don't mess with that. We got some coolant lines here going to the throttle body. Those can stay. We're just going to get this kind of off and out of the way, but we're not going to disconnect it per se. All we're going to do is take out these 10 mil bolts so that we can remove the intake and access that back bank of cylinders. So none of the electrical connections or anything like that have to come off the throttle body. We're just physically going to unbolt it from the engine. And I'm going to have to move you, I apologize, but I need to get this off and I need to be right where you are. Holy crap. That thing hasn't been off in a while. Get this throttle body off, the ratchet will be your friend. Oh, that's tightening. This guy, we'll just lay it right to the side, and then I like to take these throttle body bolts, just put them back in. That way you don't set them down somewhere and lose them. Just a good habit to get into. Run them in a little ways so they don't fall out. All right, now let's feel for those brackets. Stupid things. Yeah, there's one right there. It's in there still. Sometimes you get lucky and the last person already did you the favor of taking them out. What about this one? Yep, that's still in there. Again, I'm not going to attempt to show you where these are because there's no way to get the camera back here. Well, that was perfect timing. As soon as I said I was going to move the camera, the battery died. So did a little swappy. Again, I'm going to get these off of here and then we'll show you how to take this intake off. You got a 10 mil nut here, one 10 mil nut over here, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. I believe they're 6 millimeter Allen bolts. Don't quote me on that. It's been a little while since I've done one of these, but I believe they're 6 millimeters. I guess I'll show you a little bit. We got the 12 wobble. Loosen this guy up. And then we can actually leave the bracket on the manifold side. Just got to take the one that's on the cylinder head, get that off. I think that should be loose enough. Yeah. Moment of truth, will I drop it? I don't think so. Got this in the bag. Oh, almost did. Kind of boogered her a little bit. The bracket has a lip on it and it slips your socket, but we got one off. We got to do the one on the other side. This one kind of sucks because it's back behind the harness and it goes kind of sideways. I think I might need a, yeah, so we're on there right now, but we're gonna need a normal sized wrench, not a stubby. Ding, fries are done. This guy should do the trick. So then you gotta feel around for it again. Yep, this is the fun part, is I know it's right here. Just feeling around for that guy again. You know, you get your hand kind of in the right spot, then you go to get a different tool and you lose it. Now you gotta think, because you're backwards, tights that way, so I gotta go, there we go, break that loose. And try to keep your finger on the end of the wrench so you can guide it back on. Turn and burn, baby. We might be able to get in there with this guy, possibly. Definitely, maybe. And negative. Give me a second. All right, we got it out. Here was the trick. Take a socket, doesn't have to be a wobble socket, but take your 12. We did get it, here's the proof. But take this, reach back there with this in your fingers, and then you're able to twist it out of there. So that's obviously once you crack it loose. But now this is off, we can take the intake off. Was I correct? Is it a 6? No. So then it must be a 5, right? Yes. It's amazing, guys. When I was doing these, like, you know, there was a time when we were doing these like at least one job a week at Toyota, and you had all this stuff memorized. But there's 1, 2, 3, 4. I really like these long Allen heads. Make sure you don't drop them in there. Get that broken free. And if you really hated yourself, you could use just a regular old Allen wrench. It would just kind of suck. But if that's all you had, it would work. Now this whole thing should just pop right off like that. And this is stuck on our throttle body. There we go. All right, so you see how that popped out of there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 millimeter, 10 millimeter. That's all you got to do. Now these guys, I have seen guys that get away with not replacing these. The problem is this rubber, these ones aren't too bad, but it gets brittle and they get flat. And I don't want to go through all this work and then have a vacuum leak somewhere. So take those out of there. Now you can see it still is kind of tight back here with this harness and stuff. You can take this harness out of the way. There's a 10 there, a 10 there, there's one over here, and you can kind of move this, but we got our coils. There's one in the middle, one right there, one right there. This part is pretty self-explanatory. It's 10 millimeter bolts, 1, 2, 3. Pull the coils out of the holes, and then you can get at those spark plugs. I'm probably just gonna time lapse this part, and then I'll pick back up once we're putting it back together. Before we do that, I did want to show you something. Those brackets. This one, like we said, we just took off the engine, so it came off with the intake. So a lot of times, like I said, I'm not here to lie to you. We would just take these off and not put them back on. I'm not saying that's the right thing to do. I'm just saying that was common practice at the dealership, was these brackets were no longer in there. If we go over to the car, hold on a second, let me set this back on. We come back over to the car. If I zoom in, way back here, this is that second bracket. Now this one, see if I can get the light in there. If I get the light in there, you can actually see this one covers that coil, so you do have to remove this one all the way. This one stays on the engine at least just to get the intake off, and then you are going to have to remove it because it is sitting directly above that coil pack. So anyway, one there, other one goes on this side. They suck. Oh, that reminds me. One critical thing you should do. Hold on. Take some tape or some rags and cover these holes. Last thing you want to do is drop something down there. So, let's do this. You can use rags too if you don't have any tape. Just shove some paper towel in there. Make sure you're not going to drop nothing down in that intake. Safety first. Ah! There. Almost forgot. Okay, but now this harness is, well, fairly mobile. We gotta get this off. You can kind of flip these up a little bit Now you can see a little wiggle room. There's one more 10 on the corner over here. Take that off. Oh, come on, there. Just don't drop it. Don't take it out all the way, because it'll fall into oblivion. Take that guy out of there. Oh, this thing is much more mobile than it was. Okay, get this 12 off, take that bracket off, we'll show it to you. That's that pain in the butt that we were dealing with earlier. Now that the harness moves a little bit, it might be easier to go over the top. Yep, go over the top with an extension. And these guys, for some reason, are ungodly tight. There, you can see it's loose. Reach back, don't drop it. That's what that guy looks like. Another 12mm bolt. And these are the ones I was saying that it was very common practice not to put these back in. Do with that what you will. That's off. Now we can get at these coils. Grab your 10. I like the wobble variety. And that's pretty much the gist of it. Now you can take these out, pop your coils out, and get those plugs. There we go, time for a time lapse. Last one of the hard ones. Got her. Time to drop them in. Alright, so we went ahead and we started all the spark plugs by hand. You can see it is tight back here. You got to put the spark plug socket in, then drop your extension in, and then you kind of got to reverse order it to take it out. I did buzz them down after we hand tightened them with the ratchet, not super tight. I don't like messing around with that. Not that this has enough power to break them or anything, but I just don't like rodding on them. This is an ultra low profile flex head ratchet from Hazard Fart. So this end's 3/8, this end's 1/4 inch. This is the exact situation that I like this ratchet. So nice long handle, low profile. We're just gonna go through and tighten these guys up. That would be loosening though. I always start with the hard bank of cylinders first, because then when you're halfway done, it's just the easy ones left, right? There's one. This is what I mean, it's kind of a pain. You gotta fight, get that out first, then get your extension off. Maybe. Then you can pull the socket out. That one's tight, we'll go to the next one. Again, this harness is just kind of always in the way no matter how you hack it. Get this on here. We'll tighten these last two up. One thing worth mentioning while we do this, you might have watched that little bit of time lapse or as we've been working on this and think, well, why don't you disconnect the coils from the harness? It'd be easier to move them around. Yeah, it is. The problem with these Toyota connectors is that the little tab that clicks it into place likes to break off really, really easily, particularly on these 3.5s. And I can't tell you the handful of times that customers would come in with a misfire. Well, they just got plugs done somewhere and somebody broke off those little tabs, and then it wasn't seated properly, didn't get proper pin fit to the coil pack, and now you have a misfire. So then when they bring it in, they just paid for a spark plug job, and we got to take the intake off again to repin the connector. There's a few tricks you can do with zip ties to get them held on, but if you can avoid taking those off, I just leave them connected to the coils and then just carefully weasel them out of the hole. It is a little more of a pain in the butt to do it that way, but I don't want to repin the connectors, and I know that it's going to stay in place and not going to break that tab. Alright, now we just got to put these new gaskets in, and then we can bolt the intake back down. Again, I've seen people reuse these plenum gaskets, and I just personally don't like that because I don't want to do this twice because you have a vacuum leak. So, and I mean, you're already in here, so you might as well spend the money and put new gaskets in. I have seen different colors, aftermarket gaskets in here. The ones we took out were orange, so they were Toyota gaskets. Then you just got your two 10s. Go on either side, like that. And then I always like to start these guys by hand. These are those 4 5mm Allen bolts. Don't drop them in there. It can be a little tricky to get these back ones. There you go. And I always start these by hand. You don't want to cross thread this thing. So get those started by hand, and then when I tighten this, you guys, honestly, I don't even remember what the torque spec was. Just get it snug. You're not going to ruin anything. You know, go in a crisscross pattern like this, check everything, go over it a few passes. You'll be just fine. Just make sure everything's nice and snug. It's plastic, remember, so you don't need to torque the hell out of it. You're going to break this thing. So start from the inside out, and then go over it a few times. Just go back, check that thing, make sure it's snug. That feels good. Again, remember, you're just dealing with plastic right now, so it doesn't have to be crazy tight. Snug it down, make those gaskets seal good. Check these outside 10s. That socket's too short. I like to go over it 3 times, just double check, because sometimes as you're tightening stuff, other ones loosen up a little. That feels good. Crisscross, feels good. Give me my socket. Good. And one last time with those 10s. We got a new gasket for the throttle body as well. Pull that guy out of there. And again, I've seen guys get away with not replacing these, but my opinion, as long as you're in here, why risk having an overly flat gasket or having a vacuum leak of some sort? I mean, you're already in here. You might as well just put it in. Got to take the throttle body off anyway. So that's good. Get our bolts out. Same thing with this throttle body. Just snug it down. You're going into plastic. Doesn't have to be crazy tight. Just check it a few times. Get these 4 bolts snug down. Luckily on this one, they're easy enough to get to. Not too bad. Some of the Toyota throttle bodies, man, oofta, there is... Oh, where's that bracket? this one gets a bracket. But some of the Toyota throttle bodies really suck to get on and off. This little bracket goes on the bottom of this corner. Why isn't that coming up? Like that. There we go. That one started. One more. Come on. Feels good. It's good. Good. So there it is, you guys. 2gr-fe 3.5 V6 spark plug jobs, Toyota of course. I love it when my customers bring me Toyotas because it's what I'm most familiar with, and like I said, most of the time it just ends up being maintenance items or some leak somewhere or something like that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope if this is something you're trying to do yourself, this video could help you out. Let me know what you guys think about this new kind of video format. I've always said that this channel is never going to be a step-by-step, you know, this is exactly how to do this job, because I don't enjoy doing that. But if you like where we kind of go through the job and it, you know, could potentially help someone out if it's something that they want to do. If you like this style video, let me know, because we have jobs in the shop every single day, and I just think maybe I need to put more videos out like this. So drop me a comment down below, subscribe to the channel if you have not already. It really helps me out, you guys. Drop a like on this video. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.